This week on HomeKit News, the ZemiSmart roller blind motor with matter and thread. Welcome back everybody. Today we're looking at a brand new product, so new in fact this came to me in a blank white box, so there's nothing to see here. The actual product is a roller shade motor, a retrofit device to control your blinds that uses none other than matter over thread. So the device in question is from ZemiSmart, as you can see from the branding, and just by way of a quick overview, you can see at the top two holes for the beaded cord for your blinds. Incidentally, this device should work with not only roller shade blinds, but also honeycomb shades, zebra shades, and even Venetian blinds, although it will only offer open and closed for the latter. It's quite slim at only 30mm in depth, or 40mm if you take the dial into account, 60mm wide and 135mm tall. What I immediately found useful is the mounting plate that includes a method by which you can roughly set it up on your wall and affix the motor, adjusting it to just the right position to ensure you get enough tension on the beaded cord. The front has a rotary dial that doesn't quite do what you imagine, but we'll look at that a bit later. First impressions are good, even if it looks a bit plain. The underside has a rubber cover that includes a small toggle switch for setting the blind limits, a USB-C port for recharging the internal battery, and a small reset button. Now, as this is a Matter device, there's an included Matter QR code for you to add it directly to a Matter platform of your choice. The motor that pulls the cord is hidden behind this panel, which is a little hard to get into, although you'd only generally need to do this once, so it's not really an issue. Inside is the cog that you attach your beaded cord to, which can be removed if needed. In the box you also get additional cogs for different types or sizes of beaded cords, as well as a couple of screws and raw plugs for mounting the motor's wall plate. No adhesive patch is included, however. A USB-C cable and a small remote are also provided. Pretty much all of our rooms have blinds of one type or another, except for this guest room. There's one window with a small blind fitted and a second small window with another blind. I've fitted the motor to the main larger blind for the purposes of this review. Now, the blind itself is 190cm or just under 75 inches wide, with a drop of 89cm or 35 inches. So whilst the blind is wide, it doesn't have to travel too far. One important thing to be aware of is that when it comes to the installation, you should set the upper and lower limits for the blinds before you add them to your smart home. This can be done via the remote or on the device itself, so just follow the included instructions. So on to installation, and as you can see, I've already installed the motor, with the motor at a right angle to the blinds and the cord, although it works fine. Here you can see holes where a previous motor was installed. Now, I haven't previously mentioned the role of the rotary dial at the front, but essentially it acts as a button in two different ways. To open and close the blinds, you turn the dial like so. If you want to stop the blinds, you simply press the dial like you would any button. To make the blinds go in the opposite direction, you simply turn the dial, you guessed it, in the opposite way too. You can also set the dial up so it will open or close the blinds incrementally if you wish, but I'm not entirely sure it's of much use personally. Additionally, if you turn the dial whilst the motor is in motion, it will cycle through 3 different speeds. The included remote that I showed you earlier may not be the most stylish looking device, but the response time is very fast. It can also cycle through the 3 different speeds by just pressing the relevant buttons. If you have other smart buttons in your home, like this Aqara rotary dial, you can control the blinds too, although this dial doesn't work with the blinds unless you add the blinds to the Aqara app, which in turn would require the Aqara Hub M3. I've already added the motor to Apple Home, so let's have a look at it there. So you get the one tile as standard to open and close the blinds, as well as a slider to adjust the position. In the settings panel, you get the battery level and whether it's charging or not. Now, as it's a Matter device, you can also use the turn on pairing mode option to pair it with additional Matter platforms. In connected services, you can see I've already added it to Google and SmartThings, and I have to say it was a lot easier than I've previously experienced, which is great. Hopping over to Google Home now, and you get the same standard tile for opening and closing, along with a slider and battery levels just like in Apple Home. In SmartThings, it's more of the same with a single tile, although here you also have pause control and an option to set up a preset position. As this motor offers 3 different speeds, I'll test them and see how much difference there is. Now I've split the screen so you can see the difference in real time. So with the fastest speed, the blinds are closed in 18.4 seconds with a noise level of 58 dB or thereabouts, which isn't very loud except for maybe first thing in the morning. The medium speed is only slightly behind at 24.2 seconds at closing and a mere 4 dB lower at 54 dB. The slowest speed is a lot different, taking 30 seconds more to close than the fastest speed, totaling 48.4 seconds with 44 dB in terms of volume, which is definitely quite enough to open and not wake you up unless you're a very light sleeper. When compared to other retrofit motors of this type that I've recently tried, this comes out slightly ahead of the Aqara E1 in terms of speed. The Aqara does require a hub of course, but you do get additional options. ZemiSmart's own Zigbee roller shade driver was the slowest at 3 cm per second compared to just under 5 cm per second with this new model. And of course that old model also requires a hub. Finally to the pros and cons, and as I've said before, having a matter over thread device is definitely the way forward in many cases, and this is a big improvement over previous ZemiSmart models. Being a retrofit device offers those renters that can't do too much remodeling to their home a chance to go smart with their blinds, and isn't that expensive either. I really like the adjustable mount, as the Aqara E1 requires a lot more precision to get the motor in the right position to ensure the beaded cord was tensioned adequately, so this makes it a lot easier. It's great that there are also 3 speeds available, which allows for making the battery last even longer between charges if you're happy to go with the slower settings. Battery life seems decent so far, having had this device running since December of last year, although only time will tell on that score of course. The only negative is that the 3 speeds aren't accessible via Apple Home or seemingly any other platform. I had hoped it would show up as an option in the controller app, but no dice unfortunately. Maybe they can push an update to include this option down the line. All in all, this is one device I'm happy to say works as expected and does its job well. It was easy to add to Apple Home and just as easy to pair to additional platforms, so I really can't complain. It's also not region locked, so that's another plus. So that's our take on the ZemiSmart roller shade motor. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you have a question, I'll always reply of course. In the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like. Also share the video with your friends if you don't mind, and please subscribe if you haven't done so already so you can get the word on the latest reviews as I do them. In the meantime, stay safe, and I'll leave you with this first quote of 2025 from, of all people, Otto von Bismarck, who said, "People never lie so much as after a hunt, during a war, or before an election." Yes, indeed.